Hi, um, I'm Art Bergeron, and welcome to this episode, which is our final episode of Frank and Mary here in Westborough. For those of you who haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. I'm an elder law attorney. That's my day job. I actually work here in Westborough at Myrick O'Connell, where there are 20 of us, part of a big firm. But this show was never about law. It was always about my friends Frank and Mary. Many of you folks had seen presentations that I've done in which I talk about Frank and Mary and their goal in life, which is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And as we would always talk about, this show was designed for people who, like you maybe, identify with Frank and Mary and really like Westborough and want to stay here for the rest of your lives. And with me is my good friend Shelby Marshall, because we have been doing this show now together for a long time. Shelby actually has the statistics because she really knows the stuff, but I don't. But it's been for a long time, and she has always had these wonderful guests that we've had on the show, and we've interviewed them. And I think, based on the feedback that Shelby has gotten, that has helped a lot of people to kind of understand what's been happening in here in Westborough for quite a while, especially during the pandemic. So Shelby, my good friend, this is our last show, and so this is going to be a show that is shorter than usual. But by the way, because it's our last show, usually at the end of our show we would do actually something serious, and I would say to Shelby, so what's going on in Hudson, right? And if there are any kind of serious things that are happening, we should actually do this now at the beginning, like now. And
sure.
So right, for when we close. So just tell me, tell folks who are here, kind of what's going on in kind of the near term that folks in Westborough should know about.
Yeah. So thank you, Arthur, and it's always great to see you. Ironically, we are remote today. Most of our shows since 2018 actually were done remotely because of COVID. And guess what? We're remote today because I have COVID. I got it.
She doesn't look it, she manages to keep up a good front. But
yeah, second time, but yes. So appreciate that technology has allowed us to still connect with each other and the community. But yeah, so we have a lot of things going on in Westborough right now. Kind of highlights, and all this information is available on our town's website. But one is we recently received, the select board received, and the public received an update from our town manager on the FY24 budget. And so that complete budget packet, which is about this thick, if you were to print it out, is available online through the town's website. I encourage folks to read it. It's actually a pretty easy read as all things go, and it's actually sort of an award-winning format. We've actually received the GFOA, which is the, General Finance Accounting something or other.
Thank you. Just to make sure that it wasn't just me. That was
no. Okay. I can't think of it offhand. I'm COVID head. Award for the presentation and its organization and all of that. And so we've received that award for 2 or 3 years now for the budget format. And so I think the town has done an exceptional job of presenting information to residents in a way that is understandable and allows them to preview the information before our annual town meeting, which of course will be in March. So I encourage folks to go out there and look at that. We recently, the select board and finance committee, had an all-day budget summit, which is available through our friends at Westborough TV. And we heard from the major departments bringing forward particularly capital items this year. So this year we heard from our fire chief, our police chief, of course, always hear from the superintendent because of the size of the budget, and that we can all appreciate that. And as well as IT, information technologies, we're making a significant capital investment or intend to. So encourage folks to watch that meeting, but also you can kind of read through the budget document. We'll talk about that. So that's really big news. The other big thing that's happening in town that's all abuzz, and we'll talk about kind of the spin-off version of Frank and Mary as we end the, we end the show, but because I think that this format has been very valuable. But the other thing that's going on that's really important or of interest in the town is we recently received a building assessment for the golf club building. And basically the short of it is that that building really needs significant renovations for it to be safe and usable for the long term in the future. And so the community is in a bit of an uproar because the Civic, which is a great restaurant and had a great deck setting and all of that, the town, we will not be renewing their contract, or it was coming up for bid anyway in March because of the building. So we need to, the plan is to establish a building committee to determine what do we do with the building. The golf club will continue to operate through the pro shop and so on and so forth. And we're the rec department and town staff are already looking at ways in which, whether through food trucks or what have you, that they can kind of serve the golfing needs. But there's quite a bit of buzz going on there. So more to come on that. People are always concerned about the bridge and the trucks that get stuck under the bridge. And we will be having a discussion about that in an upcoming select board meeting, and certainly appreciate the residents and businesses frustration with that. And so that is a problem that needs to be addressed.
So I have a trivia question. Has there ever been a cost estimate of what it would take? Because I get it. I mean, the cost of trying to change Route 30, right? To actually so that you don't have the same kinds of slopes and you can get under that bridge must be gigantic. But the cost of doing the other and actually trying to change the railroad, forget it, just forget it. So yeah, it must be a tremendous.
I don't know that there's ever been a cost estimate to either, but I do know.
Number two, you just couldn't do. You could never get the grade changes necessary.
Right.
Because at least cars can kind of go down. Trains can't. They got to keep going. Kind of.
Right. Right. Well, and my understanding of the road of Route 30, the issue is also the water table because of, I think, Cedar Swamp and other areas. So that's right. Yeah. So anyway, it's a problem. It impacts residents, it impacts businesses. People get delayed to health appointments and other appointments. It's very frustrating. And everyone has an idea for a solution, but there's probably not one good solution. So one best solution. So anyway, we'll be having discussion about that and town meeting. So town meeting will be in March. And so there will be obviously a number of articles. I think right now we have almost 30 articles on the warrant. So lots to discuss and debate there.
Is the warrant out yet?
There are draft warrants available. We're on our 5th version of the draft warrant. Okay. And that is also available on the town's website. So
this is exactly one of the reasons why you need this kind of show. Mm-hmm. Right? You just need, because stuff happens and the newspaper is kind of non-existent. There isn't really Westborough coverage, kind of Westborough centric coverage. Right?
I mean, I think the community advocate, Dave Bagdon and his team as community advocate, actually over the past, I'm going to say 3 months, have done, I think, a much better, maybe more conscientious, have had staff and dedicated staff to covering events in Westborough. And so they've done a really good job, but they cover many communities, right? And there's only so much print space, and that requires advertising money and so on and so forth. So I think it's important that there are, and people receive their news in different ways, right? Not everyone, some people are going to get the community advocate in print, and there's going to be a delay there in news, right? Some people are going to see it online, but then that requires maybe to be media savvy. Right. And so I think that this format has been really helpful. First of all, I think it's personal, right? You see two people, whether they like us or not, Arthur, we're dependable, we're a little bit funny. And I felt like we were able to kind of gain trust for the viewers and through the format that we were delivering and the guests we were bringing on. But it is something that I know I have received comments many times, and I've shared this with you, that I knew we were being successful in our mission, which was to provide information and resources to the community when I would be in meetings, town or otherwise, some of the volunteer groups that I'm involved in, and people would be like, hey, other people would be saying, you should talk with Shelby about getting on Frank and Mary to talk about this. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is exactly what Arthur and I had hoped for. And remember, our mission initially was all about aging, right? It was kind of about aging in Westborough. And we had really the first, I was looking back at our series, our first from June 2018, when we started working together until about April 2019. So for almost a whole year, it was really about aging. Like, if you're here, what do you need to know? And that was great, right? And then
specifically, what do you need to know as a senior?
Exactly.
That's related only, kind of directly and only to seniors. Yes.
Right, exactly. And then really from there, we pivoted to kind of broadening the aperture, so to speak, and really kind of talking more about what's going on in Westborough. And, I always love when you shared like, hey, this is the show about, the things you need to know about, the people you need to know about. And it was really connecting our audience with those, again, information resources and people. And then of course, COVID hit, right? And so in just, you mentioned statistics. So we've done 94 shows since June 2018. 27 of them I'd call kind of regular. There were 64 which were kind of physically distanced or COVID related. So just kind of, and I'll remind our audience that during that period of time, really during from April 2020 onward, until,
sometime last year.
Yeah, until sometime last year, we were doing we did weekly shows,
right? Because
we felt, again, we felt that need from the community to continue to provide information. So we provided not quite 3,000 hours of information to the community, which is just kind of never thought of it in that way. We've done a couple shows on the road, right? We went to our first show on the road was up at the Del Webb Lake Chauncey community. Okay. And then we did a VIA tour. We showed folks how they could use the VIA system to navigate around Westborough and beyond. And we were at the police station talking about, the electric vehicles. So
the Mustang, that great Mustang. Yeah. I mean, it was great for me because I get to see all this great stuff that's going on in town.
Yeah. And stuff that, again, I think we've taken folks, we brought information to residents, that they might just not, it might not kind of be in their lane to see, right? They might not normally kind of think, oh, I should know what's going on at the food pantry, right? But we educated them on that. So we've connected folks with town government. What are the services that are available? Who are the people you need to know with them? And what are some of the programs that are coming out? We've talked about major initiatives, the master plan, right? The climate action plan, the FAILS project, which was
I love the guy who did the 3 shows on the way in which you're becoming like zero.
Yeah, Sherrod.
Zero. That was terrific.
Yep. Yep.
And I learned a ton of stuff. I mean, it was just, I really came away from those totally feeling differently about this whole, oh my God, climate change, we're all going to die, to, oh, here's how you do it, and we're doing it. And by the way, we're going to do it in Westborough, right? And it's not, the world, we don't need a world government to do this, we're going to just do this. And it was wonderful. It was just wonderful.
And we talked about the Westborough aggregation of electricity, Westborough Power Choice. So that was an extension of that discussion about how folks could really level out their electricity bills, which God knows now is more important than ever. So we talked about that program, and again had our assistant town manager and others on to talk about that. We talked about composting, like what is that? How could you do it? Which, by the way, speaking of news, and I neglected to mention this, but another big thing that's coming up, I actually serve on as an appointee from the select board on the Waste Management Exploratory Committee. And we're looking at ways in which we can reduce waste here in Westborough, waste across the board, organic, recycling, just everything, like how can we kind of reduce waste overall. And we just recently learned that the town's arrangement allowing public access to the transfer station at Harvey, now owned by Waste Connections, will be ending in 2024. So that is a big change coming up for residents here in Westborough, residents that passionately love their Saturday morning trips to the transfer station. That relationship will be ending, and that's going to be a big change for folks, and in determining, does the town provide municipal trash service, or does it all go private, and how does that work? And it's going to be an interesting discussion. So I'm on that committee, and there will be more to talk about there. We, just again, looking back, we've had so many amazing guests, right? We've talked with state representatives, we've talked with the town, officials, both elected, appointed, volunteers. One of my favorite guests was Bob Sylvester, local resident that, he, kind of spot one of the, I guess, the patrons, if you will, of the community Thanksgiving dinner.
And one of the icons of the community.
Icons.
That's right.
Yep.
When you talk about pillars of the community, you saw this guy and you said, this is how communities get built, right?
Yep.
Right, on
Exactly.
the shoulders of people like him. Right?
And we've educated and shared with the community about so many amazing organizations that we have here in Westborough: the Westborough Food Pantry, the Women's Club, In Your Shoes, Westborough Connects, the Lions Club. So, on and on and on, and certainly the Rotary Club, which I'm also a proud member of. And I think we've just done a really good job of, again, providing information and resources, and always with a little bit of humor. Aiden has been amazing behind the scenes. When we've had to say, Aiden, cut, can we stop? Can you blend that together? Because someone's phone went off. In fact, I had to reach for mine to make sure it was on mute. We've had a couple gaffes, but it's been fun.
And has also shown the value, the reason why Westborough Cable is so important. Yeah. That as a way of communicating with a lot of people, easily. It's an essential aspect of the community, essential to the community. So with all of that in mind, so I know that you've been talking about something that the ways in which you may be thinking about doing another show that's doing this, because I had told Shelby that I turned 73 2 days ago, and I realized I've got some amount of time left that I still want to be doing stuff. I still have a day job and stuff. And as I told Shelby, I decided that I really want to concentrate my time, my kind of extra time, right, on focusing on plan giving and encouraging seniors to make their community part of their legacy. So that as I, kind of my mantra is, your kids don't need all the money, right? You're planning on giving your kids, they're going to tell you they need all the money. Everybody needs all the money, but they don't, right? And so the question is there a percentage of your assets when you've both died, so you're not worried about running out of money anymore, right? That can really be a legacy, something, and to me, local legacies are more important than anything, right? Yep. And so I'm going to be trying to focus on that. And I've talked to Shelby about the fact that I think that one of the things that would be worthwhile in that regard would be to go back to many of those wonderful nonprofits that we've spoken to, and to have a series of shows that speak to what their missions are and what they're doing, so that people can really kind of consider that, and keep the money local, right? As I've mentioned to Shelby, I have not, since I came to Myrick O'Connell, I have done about 2,000 estate plans, and the average value, because of people's houses and 401ks and stuff, is about $1.5 million, which means I've done estate plans worth $3 billion. Isn't that incredible? $3 billion. Imagine if everybody had said, I'm going to give 10% of my money, right? The kids get 90. I'm going to give 10% of my money to some local thing. That's $300 million, right? Across a very small set of communities, this little cluster of communities around here,
Yep.
like 5 communities, and then Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. In Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, very much like the folks here, the people aren't fabulously wealthy. They happen to have houses that are worth a lot, But the point is, if folks really thought about this, this could be a really useful thing. And so that's kind of, and it's for that reason that I told Shelby, I think, one of the, as we all realize as older people, right? The only finite thing is time, right? And the only way to open up time to do this was to not be doing some other stuff. And so this is, I'm stopping doing all of the Frank and Mary shows in the 10 communities in which I have been doing them, right? So Shelby, how are you, but in several communities, like Shelby's case, people are reimagining, oh, this is a really important thing. What are we going to do?
Sure.
So what are you thinking about, Shelby?
Yeah, well, Arthur, first of all, I want to thank you because this has been amazing. I was your guest for a couple times before we formally started, hosting Frank and Mary together.
Before I suckered you into it, because you realize how much you like being on camera. Oh, did I say that? Oh, no, I didn't. Yes, but yeah.
So it really has. It was not this experience is not something I would have imagined, and it's something I've fallen fairly naturally into, and I've really enjoyed doing it for many, many reasons, but primarily for the benefit of what I feel like it's meant to the community. And so I want to thank you for that. It's been a lot of fun. I always learn something from you. And so to that end, my hope is that I'm working with the team at Westborough TV to determine what should the new format look like. It won't be Frank and Mary. And just to be clear, we are not Frank and Mary. Most people think like you're Frank and I'm Mary. And some people have actually said like, well, Mary's kind of young for Frank. And I'm like, well, Arthur's smart. Come on. No, Arthur has his own Mary at home. And I don't have a Frank, but I have my own Mary at home. We digress. So my hope is to host a show, the frequency and the format, whether it be TV or podcast, to be determined, that will continue to bring information to the community, whether it's kind of a quick update. Here's what's happening in Westborough, which I would love to do. And I think that's important, but I also enjoy going deeper. And to your point, whether it's talking with organizations about who they are, what they do, what their mission is, or talking about the programs, people, et cetera, that folks really need to understand and know about. And actually, folks have already reached out to me saying, hey, what do you think about this for a show? And so I've sort of said, well, we're in a little bit of a transition here. So Arthur, it's not to say I might not drag you back into a show or two, but I certainly do think that there's an opportunity to talk about local giving. And I think it's really important. And when we have those conversations, at least to bookend them, I hope that you will be a guest on the show to talk about that, certainly from your professional perspective and ideas. Yeah, so that's so
it's been all good. This has just been a lot of fun. I think it's helped both of us think about stuff in different ways. As folks could probably tell who have seen this show, we get along well, right? And so it's just been that's been a real pleasure. So I want to thank you. You really gave me the opportunity to do it. Because I don't know anybody. I would always tell people, my job is to keep time and provide comic relief. But I was always interested in all of the guests that you got. So yes. It's been that part's been just wonderful. So folks, I hope you've enjoyed all of these shows. That's a lot of shows that we have done over this time. And I hope you enjoy Shelby's new show. And at some point, I may be on some kind of a show talking about the best ways that you can do plan giving to make sure that the things that you love about your community will continue in perpetuity. That is the goal. That is the goal of plan giving. So thank you very much, Shelby. Thank you very much. Thanks a million, Aiden.
Yes,
Aiden has been with us the entire time. Oh my God, the entire time has listened to our bad jokes. It's amazing. He hasn't just kind of gone, ugh, I can't do this anymore, right? So thank you to Aiden. Thanks to Karen Henderson at Westborough TV. We really, really appreciate all the hospitality. I will look forward to seeing you someday, and I'm sure you will all look forward to seeing Shelby regularly back here on something that isn't Frank and Mary. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks everyone. Bye.